The party that became a prison, the champagne bubbles rose in elegant spirals inside crystal flutes, just like they were supposed to. The string quartet played classical melodies in perfect harmony, just like they were supposed to. And Jessica Monroe stood beside her fiancé Brandon Collins, smiling at their engagement party guests, just like she was supposed to. But inside, she was screaming, "Smile bigger." "Darling," Brandon whispered through his own perfect smile, his hand tightening around her waist. To everyone watching, it looked like an affectionate gesture. Jessica knew better. It was control, pure and simple. The ballroom of the Plaza Hotel glittered with Manhattan's elite. Business partners of Brandon's real estate empire mingled with society figures Jessica had known since childhood. Her mother, Patricia Monroe, held court near the desert table, already planning the wedding as if Jessica's opinions were mere suggestions to be noted and dismissed. "Your daughter looks absolutely radiant," someone said to Patricia. Jessica caught her mother's reply. "She should be. Brandon is the perfect match. His family's portfolio alone makes this union ideal." Union, not marriage, not love. Union, like a corporate merger. Jessica's smile felt like it might crack her face in half. The moment everything shattered speech. The calls started near the bar and spread through the crowd. Like wildfire, Brandon released Jessica's waist and stepped forward, his confidence as polished as his Italian shoes. He was handsome in that catalog model way, all sharp angles and expensive grooming. When they'd started dating 2 years ago, Jessica had been flattered by his attention. Now, she recognized it for what it was. She was another acquisition, another trophy for his collection. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Brandon began, his voice carrying easily across the room. "When I first saw Jessica at the Metropolitan Museum fundraiser, I knew she was exactly what I'd been searching for. Beautiful, from the right family, with impeccable taste and the perfect temperament for the life I've built." Jessica felt something inside her go cold. He was describing a piece of furniture, not a person. Not the woman he supposedly loved. "She'll be an asset to my business endeavors, and a credit to the Collins name. I'm very pleased with this arrangement." Pleased. Arrangement, the words echoed in Jessica's head as polite applause rippled through the crowd. Nobody else seemed to notice anything wrong. This was normal in their world. Love was secondary to status, to wealth, to connections. But Jessica noticed, and in that crystalline moment of clarity, she realized she couldn't do this. Not for one more minute, the breaking point, and now, Brandon continued. Reaching into his jacket pocket, "I have a special gift for my bride-to-be." He pulled out a jewelry box, and the crowd pressed closer. Jessica's heart hammered against her ribs. It's like a trapped bird. Brandon opened the box to reveal a diamond necklace that probably cost more than most people's houses. "This belonged to my grandmother. It's tradition in the Collins family for the bride to wear it on her wedding day. 3 months from now, Jessica will become Mrs. Brandon Collins. And this will be the first of many Collins family heirlooms she'll wear." 3 months. She'd thought she had more time. She'd been telling herself she could figure something out. Find a way to explain to Brandon that this wasn't what she wanted. But he'd already set the date without asking her. The room tilted. The faces around her blurred into a sea of expectations and judgments. The walls seemed to press inward. "Jessica." Brandon's voice held a note of irritation. He was holding out the necklace, waiting for her to turn so he could fasten it around her neck. Another collar to keep her in place. "I can't," she whispered.
What?"
Brandon leaned closer, his smile fixed in place. "I can't do this." Louder now. The music faltered. Conversations died mid-sentence. "Jessica, don't be dramatic," Brandon said through his smile. "Turn around." "No." That single word dropped into the silence like a stone into still water. "Excuse us," Brandon said to the crowd, gripping Jessica's arm. "Wedding jitters? We'll be right back." But Jessica yanked her arm free. "Don't touch me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Her mother started forward, face pale with horror. "I won't marry you," Jessica said, her voice gaining strength. "I won't be your asset, or your acquisition, or another Collins family heirloom. I'm a person, Brandon. A person with dreams and feelings and a voice, even if you've never cared to hear it. You're hysterical, Brandon snapped, his mask finally slipping to show the anger beneath. This is completely inappropriate. You know what's inappropriate? Announcing our wedding date without asking me. Describing me like I'm a piece of property. Treating our engagement like a business transaction. Jessica pulled the engagement ring off her finger. The 3-carat diamond caught the light as she placed it in Brandon's hand. I'm done. She turned and ran into the storm. The spring rain had started while they were inside, and Jessica burst out of the plaza into a downpour. She didn't care. The cold water felt like freedom. Behind her, she could hear Brandon calling her name, hear her mother's shrill voice demanding she'd come back. Jessica ran faster, her designer heels splashing through puddles. Her carefully styled hair plastering to her face. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs ached. She ran until she couldn't hear Brandon's voice anymore. She ran until she found herself on a corner in a neighborhood she didn't recognize. Bent over with her hands on her knees, gasping for air. Hey, are you okay? The voice was gentle, concerned. Jessica looked up. A man stood a few feet away, holding a guitar case over his head to shield himself from the rain. He was nothing like the men at her engagement party. His jeans were worn, his leather jacket weathered. Dark hair fell across his forehead, and his eyes held genuine worry. I'm fine, Jessica said automatically, then laughed at the absurdity. She was soaking wet, makeup running down her face, standing alone on a strange street corner. Actually, no. I'm not fine at all. The stranger studied her for a moment, taking in her expensive dress and ruined hairdo. Running from something. My entire life. He nodded, as if that made perfect sense. Been there. Do you need me to take you somewhere? Call someone for you. Jessica shook her head. I don't want to go anywhere I know. I don't want to see anyone who knows me. Okay. He shifted the guitar case. Then how about somewhere nobody knows you? Somewhere you can just breathe for a minute. Jessica knew she should say no. She should call a cab, go home, deal with the disaster she'd just created. That's what responsible Jessica would do. Sensible Jessica. But sensible Jessica had almost married a man who saw her as an asset. Yes, she heard herself say. Please. The stranger smiled, and something in Jessica's chest loosened. I'm Dylan, by the way. Dylan Reed. Jessica. Jessica Monroe. Well, Jessica Monroe, Dylan said, already walking toward a motorcycle parked at the curb. Hold on tight. I know exactly where we should go. As Jessica climbed onto the bike behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist, she realized this was the first real choice she'd made in years. Not the choice her parents wanted. Not the choice society expected. Her choice. The engine roared to life, and they disappeared into the rainy New York night. Leaving the Plaza Hotel and Brandon Collins and the life Jessica was supposed to want far behind, a different world Dylan drove through streets Jessica had never explored. Even though she'd lived in New York her entire life, they left behind the glittering towers of Midtown, the carefully manicured neighborhoods where people like her parents lived. Instead, they ventured into areas where street art covered brick walls and small cafes glowed with warm, inviting light. He finally stopped in front of a place called the Blue Note Corner, a jazz club tucked between a bookstore and a vintage clothing shop. The neon sign flickered in shades of blue and purple, casting colorful shadows on the wet pavement. Come on, Dylan said, helping her off the motorcycle. Let's get you dried off. Inside, the club was dimly lit and half full. A saxophone player was finishing a soulful melody on stage. The crowd clapped appreciatively, and Jessica felt something shift in her chest. Nobody here cared about her last name or her family's social standing. Nobody was judging her ruined designer dress or smeared makeup. Dylan led her to a corner booth and disappeared. Returning moments later with 2 towels and 2 mugs of hot coffee, the owner's a friend, he explained, sliding into the seat across from her. I play here sometimes. You're a musician. Jessica wrapped her hands around the warm mug, grateful for the heat. Guitarist. Singer when they twist my arm, he grinned, and Jessica noticed how different his smile was from Brandon's. God. Dylan's smile reached his eyes, genuine and warm. Not exactly a stable career, but it makes me happy. Happy, Jessica repeated softly. I can't remember the last time I did something just because it made me happy. Dylan studied her face. You want to talk about it? The thing you were running from? Confessions in the dark. Jessica surprised herself by saying yes. Maybe it was the anonymity of the dark club, or the kindness in Dylan's eyes, or simply the fact that she'd been holding everything inside for so long that it had to come out. She told him about Brandon, about the engagement that felt more like a business contract, about her parents who had spent her entire life grooming her to marry well, to maintain the family's status, about the suffocating expectations and the gradual disappearance of her own dreams. I used to paint, she admitted, staring into her coffee. In college, I was good. Really good. My art professor said I had a gift, that I should apply to graduate programs. But my father said art was a hobby, not a career. He got me a job at his friend's marketing firm instead. Do you still paint? Dylan asked. No, I don't even remember the last time I picked up a brush. The realization hit her hard. When had she stopped? When had she let that part of herself die? That's a crime, Dylan said seriously. Letting your art go. What about you? Jessica asked, wanting to shift focus. Why music? Your family must have opinions about that. Dylan laughed, but there was an edge to it. My family definitely had opinions. My dad wanted me to join his law firm, follow in his footsteps. We had a spectacular falling out when I dropped out of law school to pursue music. You dropped out? Jessica leaned forward. She'd never known anyone who'd actually walked away from the expected path. Best decision I ever made, Dylan said firmly. Sure, I don't have a fancy apartment or an expensive car. I play gigs, teach guitar lessons to kids, live in a studio that's basically a closet. But when I wake up in the morning, I'm excited about my day. I'm living my life, not someone else's version of what my life should be. Jessica felt tears prick her eyes. That sounds amazing. It could be scary, Dylan admitted. Disappointing your family, going against everything you were raised to believe. But you know what's scarier? Waking up 20 years from now and realizing you lived someone else's dream instead of your own. Hidden corners of the city, they stayed at the Blue Note corner until the last set finished. Then Dylan suggested they keep going. The rain stopped, he said, and New York is different at night. Want to see my favorite places? Jessica should have gone home. She should have faced the chaos she'd created. But she wasn't ready. Not yet. Show me everything, she said. Dylan took her to a rooftop garden in Brooklyn, where vegetables grew in recycled containers and fairy lights twinkled overhead. An elderly man named Jerome tended the plants even at midnight, and he greeted Dylan like family. Now this is where the neighborhood comes together, Dylan explained as they walked between raised beds of tomatoes and herbs. Jerome started it 15 years ago. Now there are gardens like this all over the borough, bringing people together. It's beautiful, Jessica breathed. In her world, beauty meant expensive things behind glass. This was different. This was alive next. Dylan brought her to an all-night diner where the waitress knew his usual order and didn't blink at Jessica's bedraggled appearance. They sat in a red vinyl booth and shared a plate of fries while Dylan told stories about his regular customers and the fascinating lives they led. See that guy? Dylan nodded toward a man in paint-splattered overalls. That's Cameron. He's a janitor at a high school during the day, but at night he creates these incredible murals all over the city. Never signs them, never takes credit. Just leaves beauty behind for people to discover. Why doesn't he try to sell his work? Jessica asked. 'Cause that's not why he does it. He creates because he has to, because it feeds his soul. The rest is just noise. Jessica thought about her own abandoned art, about all the paintings she'd never created, because they wouldn't further her career or impress the right people. The bridge at dawn as the sky began to lighten. Dylan drove to the Brooklyn Bridge. They parked the motorcycle and walked out onto the pedestrian path, the city waking up around them. This is my thinking spot, Dylan said, leaning against the railing. The East River flowed beneath them, reflecting the pink and gold of sunrise. When I need perspective, I come here. Reminds me that I'm part of something bigger, you know? Jessica stood beside him, watching the light change. Her phone had died hours ago, which meant she had no idea what chaos awaited her back home. Strangely, she didn't care. "Thank you," she said softly. "For tonight? For showing me all of this? Thank me for what? You're the one who had the courage to run." Dylan turned to face her. "That took guts, Jessica. Walking away from all that security, all those expectations." "I'm terrified," she admitted. "My mother has probably called the police. Brandon is furious. My father will be disappointed. I'll be the scandal of the season," probably Dylan agreed. "But you'll also be free." The word hung between them. It's full of promise and possibility. "The truth revealed I need to tell you something," Dylan said suddenly. "Full disclosure, because you've been honest with me all night." Jessica's stomach tightened. Here it came. The catch. The thing that would make this magical night collapse into reality. "I recognized you," Dylan continued. "At the corner when I first saw you. Not personally, but I'd seen your picture. You're engaged to Brandon Collins, the guy who's trying to buy the building where my music school is located. He wants to tear it down and put up luxury condos." Jessica closed her eyes. Of course Brandon would be involved in something like that. "There are 12 kids who take lessons there," Dylan said. "Some of them can't afford much, but we work out payment plans because music shouldn't only be for rich people. If Brandon gets his way, those kids lose their place to learn. The community loses a gathering spot." "Eh? Why are you telling me this?" Jessica asked. "Because you deserve to know the truth. And because I don't want you to think I helped you tonight because of who you're connected to." Dylan ran his hand through his hair. "I helped you because you looked lost and scared, and I've been there. The Brandon thing is separate." "Separate," Jessica corrected. "I'm not marrying him. Whatever he's planning, I have no part in it now."
"You could, though,"
Dylan said carefully. "You could talk to him, maybe convince him to reconsider. You have influence." Jessica laughed bitterly. "I have no influence with Brandon. I'm a possession to him, remember? Besides, why would I help him now? Not to help him. To help those kids, to save the music school." Dylan met her eyes. "You said you feel like you've been living someone else's life. Here's a chance to do something that matters. Something real. A new kind of connection." The sun was fully up now, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Jessica should have been exhausted. Instead, she felt more awake than she had in years. "I'll do it," she decided. "I'll try to stop Brandon. I don't know if it'll work, but I'll try." Dylan's face broke into a wide smile. Yeah, but I need help. I need to understand what's at stake. See the music school, meet the people involved." Jessica felt a spark of something she hadn't felt in years. "Purpose? Will you help me?" "Absolutely." Dylan held out his hand. "Partners." Jessica took his hand, and the touch sent electricity up her arm. Their eyes met, and suddenly the air between them felt charged with more than just partnership. "Jessica," Dylan said softly, still holding her hand. "I know you just ended an engagement a few hours ago. I know you're dealing with a lot, but I need you to know something." "What?" "This night, talking to you, showing you my city, it's been one of the best nights of my life. And if circumstances were different, if we'd met another way, I would absolutely be asking if I could take you to dinner tomorrow night." Jessica's heart hammered in her chest. "And if I said yes, then I'd say we have terrible timing." Dylan smiled ruefully. "But maybe after you figure out what you want your life to look like, after you've had time to breathe and be yourself, maybe we could try this again, properly." "Maybe as a start," Jessica whispered. Dylan's thumb traced circles on her palm. "For now, let's focus on saving a music school and helping you reclaim your life. The rest can wait." But as they stood there on the Brooklyn Bridge, watching the city come alive around them, Jessica knew something had shifted. She'd run away from a loveless engagement and stumbled into something unexpected. Not a rescue or a fairy tale, but a genuine connection. A partnership built on honesty and shared values. Whatever came next, she wouldn't be facing it alone. "Come on," Dylan said, finally releasing her hand. "Let's get you home. You've got a lot of people to face, and you should probably do it before your mom actually does call the police." Jessica laughed. It felt good. Drive slow? As slow as you want. As they walked back to the motorcycle, the morning sun warm on their faces, Jessica realized something profound. For the first time in her adult life, she had no idea what would happen next. And instead of terrifying her, it felt like freedom. Facing the aftermath, Dylan dropped Jessica off 2 blocks from her apartment building, a luxury high-rise in the Upper East Side that suddenly felt like it belonged to a stranger's life. "You've got this," he said, giving her hand a quick squeeze. "Remember, you're not the villain in this story. You're just someone who finally told the truth." Jessica nodded, took a deep breath, and walked toward her building. The doorman's eyes widened when he saw her rumpled dress and ruined hair, but he said nothing. He'd been trained to discretion. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt like ascending toward execution. When she opened her apartment door, she found her mother, father, and Brandon all waiting in her living room. Jessica Lauren Monroe. Her mother's voice could have cut glass. Patricia stood by the window, still wearing her gown from the party, though it was now 8 in the morning. "Where have you been?" "Out," Jessica said simply, setting her purse on the entry table. "Out." Brandon exploded from the sofa. His perfect hair was disheveled, his tie loose. He looked like he'd been up all night. "You humiliated me in front of 300 people, disappeared into the night, and all you have to say is out? What do you want me to say, Brandon?" Jessica faced him calmly. The fear she'd felt around him was gone, replaced by clear-eyed understanding of who he really was. "That I'm sorry? I'm not. That it was a mistake? It wasn't. I meant every word." "This is ridiculous," her father, Richard Monroe, interjected. His face was red with anger and embarrassment. "Jessica, you need to understand the consequences of your actions. Brandon's family is threatening legal action. The scandal is already all over social media. My business partners are questioning my judgment."
"Your judgment?"
Jessica laughed, without humor. "Dad, this isn't about you. None of this has ever been about what anyone else wanted." "Exactly." Her mother stepped forward. "This is about what you want. And what you want is childish and selfish. Brandon is offering you everything. Security, status, a beautiful life. Brandon is offering me a cage," Jessica said quietly. "A very beautiful, very expensive cage, but I'd still be trapped. The truth comes out, I'm not doing this anymore," Jessica continued, her voice growing stronger. "I'm not marrying Brandon. I'm not working at a job I hate. I'm not living my life according to a script you wrote before I was even born." "Then what will you do?" her father demanded. "You have no other skills, no other prospects. You'll end up with nothing." "Maybe," Jessica admitted, "but at least it will be my nothing, my life, my choices." Brandon had been silent during this exchange, but now he stood, straightening his jacket. "You're making a massive mistake, Jessica. Do you think walking away from me means you're free? You'll be a laughingstock. No respectable family will associate with you. You'll be cut off from everything you've ever known." "I'm counting on it," Jessica said. Brandon's eyes went cold. "But understand this. The building I'm planning to redevelop in Brooklyn, the one with that pathetic music school, I'm moving forward with demolition next week. I was going to wait, give them time to relocate. Not anymore. Consider it a wedding present." Jessica's heart clenched, but she kept her face neutral. "You can't do that. There are tenants, legal requirements." "I own the building," Brandon said smugly. "I can do whatever I want. And I want those people out by Friday. Maybe you'll remember that when you're living in whatever dump you can afford on your own." He strode toward the door, then paused. "You'll regret this, Jessica. When you're struggling to pay rent, working some menial job, you'll remember what you gave up, and I won't take you back." "Good," Jessica said. "I'd be insulted if you tried." After Brandon left, her parents remained, their faces a mixture of anger and disbelief. "You're cut off," her father said flatly. "No more allowance, no more credit cards. This apartment, it's in my name. You have until the end of the month to find somewhere else to live." "Fine," Jessica said. "Fine." Her mother's voice rose to a near shriek. "Jessica, do you understand what you're throwing away? Years of preparation, of building connections, of creating the perfect life. The perfect life for who, Mom? Jessica asked. Because it certainly wasn't perfect for me. Her mother's face crumpled, and for a moment Jessica saw something she'd never seen before. Genuine emotion, not just social embarrassment. I just wanted you to be secure, Patricia whispered. To never have to struggle like I did before I married your father. Jessica softened slightly. I know, Mom, but security isn't worth sacrificing happiness. And I wasn't happy. I haven't been happy in years. The plan takes shape. After her parents left, Jessica stood alone in her apartment, truly taking it in for the first time. The white furniture, the abstract art, the carefully curated decor, none of it reflected who she was. It was a showroom, not a home. She pulled out her phone, now charged, and found hundreds of notifications. Concerned friends, gleeful gossips, news outlets requesting comment. She ignored them all and called Dylan. Hey, he answered on the first ring. How did it go? About as well as expected. I'm officially cut off and homeless in 3 weeks. Ouch. But also Brandon is accelerating the demolition out of spite. He wants everyone out by Friday. Jessica paced her living room. We need to stop him, Dylan. Those kids, that community, they shouldn't suffer because of my choices, Kay Dylan said thoughtfully. We need a different approach. Legal channels take too long. But what if we could change Brandon's mind? Or at least make it more costly for him to proceed than to reconsider. How? Public opinion. Media attention. Brandon cares about his image, right? What if we make this story public? Show people what he's destroying? Kids losing their music lessons, a community gathering place being demolished for luxury condos nobody needs. Oh. Jessica's mind raced. I know people in media, people who owe my family favors. I could make some calls. I know the family's affected. We could get testimonials, maybe organize a protest. Dylan's enthusiasm was infectious. Jessica, we might actually be able to do this. I'll need to visit the music school first, Jessica said. Meet the people, understand what we're fighting for. Can you come now? I teach a class in an hour. Jessica looked around her pristine apartment. Give me 30 minutes to change. I'll meet you there. The music school, the Brooklyn Community Music School, was nothing like Jessica expected. It occupied the ground floor of a pre-war building, with worn wooden floors and walls covered in posters of famous musicians. The piano in the corner had seen better days, but it was lovingly maintained. Guitars lined one wall and through an open door. Jessica could see a small recording studio, but it was the people that truly captured her attention. A group of children sat in a circle, each holding an instrument. Dylan stood in the middle, his guitar slung over his shoulder, teaching them a simple melody. Their faces were focused, determined, joyful. Again from the top, Dylan called out, Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. Jessica watched as the children played, their individual sounds gradually coming together into something beautiful. When they finished, Dylan applauded enthusiastically. That was incredible. See what happens when we work together? A girl of about 10 raised her hand. Teacher Dylan, is it true we might have to leave? Dylan's smile faltered, but he kept his voice steady. We're working on that, Nia, but no matter what happens, you all keep playing, okay? Music is inside you. Nobody can take that away. After the class ended, Dylan introduced Jessica to the students and their parents. She heard story after story of how music had changed their children's lives. Kids who'd been struggling in school now had confidence. Teenagers who'd been heading down dangerous paths found purpose in songwriting. This place saved my son, one mother told Jessica, tears in her eyes. He was so angry after his father left. But then he started drum lessons with teacher Dylan, and suddenly he had a way to express all that emotion. Now, he wants to study music in college. Jessica felt something crystallize inside her. This was what mattered. Not social status or family approval. This. Real people, real lives, real impact. The campaign begins over the next 3 days. Jessica threw herself into the campaign to save the music school with the same. intensity she'd once applied to planning charity galas. But this time, she cared about the outcome beyond appearances. She reached out to her contacts at local news stations, pitching human interest stories. She coordinated with Dylan to organize a peaceful protest outside Brandon's office building. She even created a social media campaign that went viral, showing before and after images of what the neighborhood would lose if the building was demolished. The response was overwhelming. People from all over the city shared their own stories of community spaces that had been destroyed by developers. The music school became a symbol of something larger, a fight between preservation and profit. Brandon called her on Thursday evening, his voice tight with fury. "You need to stop this circus immediately," "No," Jessica said calmly. She was in Dylan's tiny studio apartment, surrounded by stacks of papers and empty coffee cups, feeling more alive than she had in years. "You need to stop the demolition. You're making me look like a villain. I'm just telling the truth about what you're doing. If that makes you look like a villain, maybe examine your actions. Jessica, I'm warning you, and I'm warning you, Brandon. I have documentation of every questionable business practice you've been involved in for the past 5 years. Keep pushing, and I'll release it all." The silence on the other end was deafening. Jessica had spent the past 3 days going through files she'd accumulated during their engagement. Things Brandon had carelessly left around her apartment. She'd been too checked out to notice before, but now, with purpose. She'd found enough to cause him serious legal trouble. "You wouldn't dare try me. I have nothing left to lose, Brandon." "You made sure of that? But you have your reputation, your business relationships, your family's name. How much are those worth to you?" The Victory Friday morning, Brandon's lawyer called Dylan directly with an offer. Brandon would delay the demolition for 1 year, giving the music school time to find investors or a new location. In exchange, Jessica would sign a non-disclosure agreement about Brandon's business practices and disappear from his life completely. "What do you think?" Dylan asked Jessica as they sat in a small cafe near the music school. "I think we should push for more," Jessica said. "A year isn't enough. They need at least 3 to properly relocate or raise funds to buy the building. Brandon won't go for that. Then we release what we have and let the courts decide." Jessica met Dylan's eyes. "I'm done compromising, Dylan. These people deserve better." After 3 more hours of negotiation, they reached a final agreement. Brandon would sell the building to a community trust at a fair price, the financing structured so the music school could afford it. In exchange, Jessica would sign the non-disclosure agreement. "We did it," Dylan said wonderingly as they left the lawyer's office. "We actually did it." "You did it," Jessica corrected. "I just helped." "No." Dylan took her hands in his. "We did it together. And Jessica, what you did these past few days, the way you fought for people you barely knew, it was incredible." Jessica felt warmth spread through her chest. It felt good. It felt real. Like I was finally doing something that mattered. New beginnings. 2 weeks later, Jessica stood in her new apartment. A tiny 1-bedroom in Brooklyn that cost less per month than she used to spend on shoes. The walls needed paint, the kitchen was laughably small, and she shared a bathroom with the neighbor down the hall. She loved it. Her easel was set up by the window, catching the afternoon light. For the first time in years, she'd been painting. Abstract swirls of color that expressed everything she'd been feeling. Freedom and fear and hope all mixed together. A knock on the door interrupted her work. Dylan stood in the hallway, holding a bottle of wine and wearing a nervous smile. "So," he said, "it's been 3 weeks since your engagement party. Since you've had time to breathe and figure out what you want your life to look like. And I was wondering if maybe now would be a good time to ask if I could take you to dinner tomorrow night, properly." Jessica pretended to consider it. "That depends. Where would we go?" "There's this little Italian place in my neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but the pasta is incredible, and they have candles on every table." "Very romantic?" "Romantic?" Jessica stepped closer. "Dylan Reed, are you asking me on a date?" "I'm absolutely asking you on a date." He set the wine down and took her hands. "Because these past few weeks, working with you, seeing you come alive when you're fighting for something you believe in, watching you paint, it's been amazing. And I know this is fast. I know you're still figuring things out. But Jessica, I'm falling for you. Hard. Jessica's heart soared. I'm falling for you too. Which is terrifying because I just escaped one relationship and I swore I'd take time for myself and figure out who I am without someone else defining me. Then figure it out, Dylan said simply. I'm not asking you to be my girlfriend or move in with me or plan our future. I'm just asking for dinner.
One date.
And then we see what happens. No expectations, no pressure. Just two people who like each other, exploring a connection. Jessica thought about Brandon, about how he'd planned their entire future without consulting her. Dylan was offering the opposite. Freedom to choose, step by step, what she wanted. Yes, she said. I'd love to have dinner with you. Dylan's face lit up. Yeah. He pulled her close, and when they kissed, it was nothing like the obligatory kisses she'd shared with Brandon. This was electric, genuine, full of possibility. When they pulled apart, both breathless, Jessica laughed. We have terrible timing, you know. I'm broke, homeless in 2 weeks when this sublet ends, and my family won't speak to me. I know a guy who needs a roommate, Dylan said. She's a teacher at the music school, has a spare room in her apartment, and the marketing firm downtown is looking for someone to run their social media. After what you did with our campaign, you'd be perfect. How do you know all this? Because I've been asking around, trying to help. Dylan tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. That's what partners do, remember? Partners. Jessica liked the sound of that. Not someone to complete her or define her, but someone to walk alongside her as she figured out who she wanted to be. There's something else, Dylan said. The music school board wants to offer you a position. Part-time coordinator helping with fundraising and community outreach. The pay isn't much, but it would be meaningful work. Really? Really, you made such an impact, Jessica. They'd be lucky to have you. Jessica looked around her small apartment, at her easel by the window, at Dylan standing in her doorway with hope in his eyes. This wasn't the life she'd planned. It was smaller, more uncertain, definitely more challenging. It was also hers. Tell them yes, she decided. Tell them I'd be honored. 6 months later, the gallery opening was small but well attended. Jessica stood near the entrance, nervously smoothing her dress, as people filed in to view the exhibition titled Breaking Free, Paintings of Transformation. 12 canvases lined the walls, each one capturing a moment from her journey. The chaos of the engagement party, the freedom of the motorcycle ride, the dawn on the Brooklyn Bridge, the joy of the music school children. Bold colors and raw emotion poured from every brushstroke. Dylan appeared at her side, looking handsome in a sport coat. How are you feeling? Terrified, Jessica admitted. What if people hate them? They won't. He kissed her temple. But even if they do, you created something true. That's what matters. The past 6 months had been the hardest and best of Jessica's life. She'd struggled financially, worked long hours at the marketing firm while volunteering at the music school. She'd reconnected with old friends who respected her choices and made new friends in her neighborhood. She'd painted until her hands cramped, pouring years of suppressed emotion onto canvas, and she'd fallen completely in love with Dylan Reed. They'd taken it slow, right, just as he'd promised. Dates that turned into long conversations. Shared meals in tiny kitchens. Lazy Sunday mornings at the music school, teaching kids together. Gradually, inevitably, their lives had woven together in the most natural way. Jessica. A familiar voice made her turn. Her mother stood near one of the paintings, a tissue pressed to her eyes. Patricia looked different, older, and somehow softer than Jessica remembered. Mom, these are beautiful, Patricia whispered, gesturing at the canvases. I had no idea you were this talented. All those years I thought your art was just a hobby, but this is real. Thanks, Mom. I'm sorry. Patricia met her daughter's eyes. I'm sorry I tried to force you into a life you didn't want. I'm sorry I valued security over happiness. I'm sorry I almost lost you to my own fear. Jessica felt tears prick her eyes. You're here now. That's what matters. They hugged awkwardly at first, then tighter. When they pulled apart, Patricia noticed Dylan hovering nearby. "You must be the young man I've been hearing about." "Dylan Reed, ma'am." "It's nice to meet you." Patricia studied him appraisingly, and for a moment Jessica tensed, waiting for criticism. But her mother simply smiled. "Take care of my daughter, Mr. Reed." "She takes care of herself," Dylan said, sliding his arm around Jessica's waist. "I just get to stand beside her while she does." Patricia nodded approvingly. "Good answer."